Hi. Okay, this works. Hi, everybody. Steve Ballmer got really bad food poisoning last night. I don't know what he ate. Sorry, not Steve. Dave. Our Dave Ballmer. And I'm sorry, I'm tired. I'm mixing first names. So I'm filling in for him. He pulled up a lot of those slides together. And what I'm here to tell you a little bit is, all the multimedia features of HTML5 that are available on our platform, and show you some demos. So I just came in. I don't have the demos installed. I don't have the phone, but trust me that it does work really well on BB10, and the type of stuff that I'm going to show you works well there. So how do we look at this, right? Remember Shockwave, Flash, all that type of stuff? That was kind of a defining attributes of video and kind of multimedia type of things, right? Forget it. HTML5 has made it a mission over the past couple of years to really fill in the gap here in terms of functionality. So HTML5, you've heard that a lot, really makes the web flashy, right? Sometimes I get amazed that Flash was like 10 years ago and it was doing things that we're still struggling to get really right now. But audio and video, streaming, CSS3 is very powerful, allows you to do a lot of very cool stuff, approximating multimedia level experiences, right? You have 2D graphics from Canvas, and obviously you have WebGL. So HTML5 is really important here, bringing a whole bunch of technologies together to essentially replace Flash. And we have really good support across it. You've seen the presentations yesterday about the power of the browser and the HTML5 support we have, right? It's all in there, including WebGL. So let's look first about audio streaming, right? It's very, very, very simple. Some people would say simplistic, right? There's the audio tag today, and that basically simply allows you to put simple tag, no Flash player, no plugin, no nothing, right? Give it a source with your sound file, and be ready to go. There are fights around standards of what's supported. Some browsers support, most browsers support MP3. Some browsers support OGG. Other browsers support other encodings. So there are tables available on the web for that. But the tag itself, what I showed you was the simple thing, right? The more correct way is really to give it the way the audio tag was built, and the video tag follows the same pattern, is to kind of go from a default. Let the browser pick the stream that's most appropriate. So it's first come, first served basis, right? So the browser looks at horse.ogg, right? You have to specify the type to let the browser know what kind of encoding you're using. And the browser might say, I don't do OGG, right? I'm going to go and get the MP3. So it basically falls back, and you can do a list fairly long. And you even have support for browsers that don't support the audio tag to put an extra message, because essentially browser tags that are not recognized by browsers just get ignored. So at the end of the day, what you all have is just your browser does not support the audio tag. Obviously, you may want to do a little bit fancier type of processing with JavaScript. You can put some stuff, make the div in there invisible, and do more appropriate messaging to the end user. But the core infrastructure is available there. Right? And then you also have controls. So this is something a lot of people get wrong. Controls is both a flag and an attribute. So you can say controls equals controls, and a lot of people kind of simplify it to just controls. But both forms are valid HTML. With JavaScript, right? Well, it's all the same. It's all dumb. So how do you work? Well, you create an element. There's also an audio object, so you can say new audio and manage that outside of the DOM. But it's generally nicer to just do it by create element audio. And then you have several methods. You can load the sound, play it, and pause it. Right? Load is important, especially if you want to be able to play fairly quickly. Right? The audio tag is not perfect, right? And we'll go through that. So the advantages of JavaScript is you just have more control. Right? And it's still very simple, right? So fundamentally, just go for that. So now, people have abused the audio tag and started to do trying to do sounds and games. Not good, right? Two big issues. Some browsers don't allow you to play two sounds at the same time. You can only have one sound playing. There's also a lot of lag. So the load function that we just saw helps a little bit, so that when you say play, it starts within, 100 to 200 milliseconds instead of a second. But there's still a noticeable lag. And I'll show you quickly a demo about, how, the level of quality you can expect. So if you want to build a rich game with multiple sounds and all that stuff, the audio tag is not it. So what is it? Well, web audio. Lots of work happening in the standards right now. I think only Chrome and the latest nightly of Firefox support web audio. This is something that we are working on as well for our browsers. So it's certainly coming next year. And that's where you get serious audio with filters, with low latency, with positional effects. You actually can master multi-channel sound and do directional effects. There's even a cool proposal that actually, once you set up a 3D scene in WebGL or a 3D scene even with CSS, moving an element in the DOM actually gets connected to which channel things are playing. So you can originate positionally a sound to an element within your application. And this is fundamentally, when you go into native gaming, that's how things are done. So other people who've tried without web audio to kind of push the envelope, what they've done is they've built really rich, nice games in HTML5. Right? Visually, we're getting there. Cut the Rope was an example. Obviously, the Angry Birds experiment from Google was another example. But all those guys kind of fall back to Flash to do the audio. So it's still there, right? And we do support Flash on the browser. So let me show you a quick demo just to get a sense of what you have. Can you switch to the other channel? And do we have the audio? Yes. Yeah. So this is all the audio tag. There's nothing more here. So it's good for playing kind of the background game, the background, I have to remove this, background sound. It's good for single things, like single beeps. But there's delays. You can get lag anywhere from like 100 to 200 milliseconds to a whole second. It's very unreliable. So you don't want to do it like this, right? And you see here, I didn't have to manage the fact that when I play the sound, I have to cut out the background noise because it can only play one sound at a time. So as soon as you give another audio element and you say play, that's the one that comes in and starts playing. Right? So simple enough for simple things, but to do formal games and really rich games, that's not what you want to use for the audio tag. OK, let's go back to the main machine, please. Next, let's look at video. Fairly simple too, right? Same architecture as with the audio tag. Video, source equal, you're done. That's the simple case. Really what you want to do is, again, same as we did with the audio tag. You want to specify different streams and let the browser pick which one it's most adept at doing. And typically, the browser goes through, again, first come, first serve. It will look at the first one, see if it can handle it, and then go for the next one. The choice, like in audio, is really about the supporting codec. There's no statement that the browser will pick in that list the one that it's most adept at handling. It really picks the first one that matches a codec that it has. So same, again, trick as in the audio tag. You basically have text, so that if the browser doesn't recognize the video tag, you have a way to handle this. With JavaScript, same thing again. Very consistent, very simple. But sometimes it's too simple, right? Same benefits for JavaScript, but you want more. So there's actually a lot of libraries out there that are popping up to do video processing. These will fall back to Flash if Flash is available. These guys will provide more APIs. You can actually position the video. pause the video, rewind the video, and all that type of stuff. One of them, which is the OSM player, right? It's an open source project as a jQuery plugin, right? Makes it really easy to control videos and have like richer APIs. But there are a bunch of others as well that are out there. And interestingly, there are even crazier things. So these are a couple of articles that came up like literally in the last couple of weeks. So one is from Cringely, and there is a guy who's building a complete video decoding system in pure JavaScript. Right? So he's getting an MPEG stream and decoding it in JavaScript and dumping it into a canvas one frame at a time. And you'd think, wow, that's kind of crazy. But, oh, sorry. Come on, I wanted to show you. They can do 30 frames a second. So people are trying to do crazy things. I mean, you're starting to see compilers built in JavaScript. There are people who are porting Linux kernels in JavaScript, right? Performance is getting there. OK, I'm not sure what's going on here. OK, is there? I can't even click. I apologize. But go there. It's a nice article that describes the technology, and there's a link to the actual site. It will blow your mind. And there was another recent thing. The Apple site did something very strange. Oh, now it's coming up. It's just very laggy. Well, through Canvas, but even that is not very, so. It's pure JavaScript, yeah. Well, but CPU, but not GPU. It's pure JavaScript. Yeah, I mean, the network and everything else is just very slow. I encourage you, just go visit this link, see where people are pushing video, and I believe that moving forward, you're going to start to have a lot more JavaScript-based solutions where the actual decoding, the actual multimedia framework is built itself in JavaScript. Lots of cool stuff there. So Apple's experiment was very interesting as well. What they said, what they took is that they pre-processed video on the server side, but delivered it as a JSON stream through XHR, and rendered it and decoded it into Canvas as a JPEG. The delta from one frame to another. It's a special encoding, right? I'm not sure. I think it is, because it's binary data. So it's base 64. They might encrypt, not encrypt it, compress it further. But they basically process video file server side and generate those JavaScript things in sets of frames that they can go in multiple requests, and they get really good performance. So people are being very creative, a little bit crazy, lots of time on their hands, but exploring really how far you can push the web engine. So these are engrossing readings and just looking at video processing and experiments that people are doing. It's pretty cool. Next one is using the camera. So this is an area, this is the whole get user media. Lots of interesting things happening, right? There's a get user media function, allows you to basically capture stuff from the camera. But it's still very wishy-washy at the standard level. So here's one case. You want to take a picture. You'd think that you'd use, can you control the front camera or the back camera? Even if you're using the back camera, some browsers actually return to you a frame of a video stream, which is a lower res than a picture that's taken at full res for the camera. So there's still a lot of issues here and there that are unspecified in the standard, and therefore vary from browser to browser and can be quite confusing, right? On our end, when you do get user media, we actually return you a frame of the video quality picture, right? It still has high res because our video channel is 1080p, but if you take a camera, I think it's 8 megapixel now. So you will not get an 8 megapixel image. But you can also do really cool stuff in terms of the streaming. So the video tag that I showed you before, you can have a video tag in your DOM and not put the source attribute. And those few lines of code basically pipe output from the video camera to that video tag. This doesn't get any simpler. Right? And again, lots of frameworks starting to appear and doing things more interesting, serving you frames in an event-driven models, allowing you to do processing. People are projecting video into textures in WebGL and doing crazy WebGL things. So the real thing is that there's still a lot to be desired around the standard. It's still messy, but at least it's the beginning of a standard. You have some basis onto which you can do things, right? And when you work on the BlackBerry 10 platform and the BlackBerry 10 browser, right, we have really good support for that. So check out a couple of things, go in depth with the APIs, show you how you get, all the coding, all that type of stuff. There's a lot of really nice little demos in that site on how to exploit user media. Against WebGL, into Canvas, doing funny things with multiple streams. One is basically a chat server back and forth through video streams, through JSON, again, as a post and get stream, multi-part, right? People are pushing the boundaries and exploring how far we can go here. Lots of cool stuff. And by the way, I see all you guys taking pictures. You know that all the slides are going to be made available after the show, right? So, okay. So that's it. I mean, this is kind of an overrun of all the video and audio features, right? The big things that are going to be happening moving forward is really web audio. Audio is lagging behind video in terms of support. And the other thing is really you can expect Get User Media to evolve, right? Get User Media reminds me a little bit of the sockets, right? I believe that we're going to go through a couple of iterations where things are going to break. There's clearly, camera selection, quality selection, those types of things, getting streams that are demarked by frame to make processing better. All that type of stuff is becoming quite important for people to use. But you want to build an app that takes a picture and sends it over to your server side? Piece of cake now. It's built in. You want to be able to show a feed of a camera? So, I mean, literally, the way it works, right, is that you project this on a video, and then you can extract one frame when someone clicks. You can rebuild, quote unquote, the camera application. So I encourage you to explore all of that. The performance is really good. We have good video processing. We have good WebGL and 3D processing. And the limit is your imagination. Any questions? And please, if you do, just come up to the microphone as we're recording the session. No questions? Okay. Well, thank you so much.
How long did it take for you to get your hair that color? How many?
I've been doing this for like 12 years. So, I mean, always blue, except at Orlando, I tried orange on a bet with people because I was going to Amsterdam, and orange is the national color of the Netherlands. And I got people from Google, Nokia, to like start dyeing their hair too. So it was special for them, but for me it wasn't. So I said, you got to change color, right? That's going to be special. But otherwise, it's always been blue for about 12 years now. So. Yeah, If I stand behind like a blue screen, it looks funny. Okay. Any more questions on audio, video, and get user media? Come on, guys. I mean, this is a fairly kind of, the stuff is fairly simple, right? I mean, this is not like, oh, deep APIs and complex stuff. Yes. Yeah.
Do you have any tables that compare the level of WebGL support we have on the new BlackBerry devices versus other things in the marketplace?
So in terms of features, you support WebGL, you don't, right? There are specific APIs or things like that, but we support the whole spec. What differentiates the different vendors is generally the driver quality, because a lot of the stuff going to the GPU is driver driven. So there are lots of issues. Chrome on Android, right, had to drop WebGL support because of that. Firefox is doing WebGL, but in software, not going through the hardware acceleration. So Firefox model supports WebGL, but with performance issues. We have a direct implementation to the driver level with hardware acceleration, so WebGL is pretty solid. But there's still bugs. So we know of test cases and demos on 3JS, for example. That's one of the frameworks that we track the most right now, that just crash or hang.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, welcome. Any more questions? Yes.
Is there any way to bring in the video from the HDMI port of the playbook? I'm not sure if this is
the video of the HDMI port.
Video in.
There's no video in.
Is it not bidirectional?
It's only out.
Okay. Well, that
only out.
answers my question then.
Okay. Well, you could play around with tricks and stuff, yeah. I mean, you look at like, what was the name of it? So Chat Roulette was one of the first one, but I forgot the name of the other one, from Sean Parker. Created a company to do Facebook integrated kind of equivalent of Chat Roulette, right? Those types of applications have been a driver for all those APIs. And one test that actually looks at that stuff is Ringmark. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with Ringmark. It's an effort from Facebook, part of a W3C working group that basically tries to define browsers in terms of fairly high-level application-driven functionality. And so they have, it's called Ringmark because they have different rings, ring 0, ring 1, ring 2. And ring 1, you need to be able to do like, build Chat Roulette equivalent, right? Or a chat application. And ring 3 is real-time, kind of communications and queuing and things like that. So it's fairly high-level kind of requirements. And those types of applications that people were building in Flash, right, are a core driver of those API, of this API work in the W3C. Yeah. So Get User Media is standardized today, right? Yeah, so there are a number of work groups in W3C that look at specific Ringmark features that are not yet covered and start to address those. So WebRTC is another big monster of W3C, right? WebRTC is basically the next level with real-time multimedia, real-time queues and message and notification and all that type of stuff. All right, so that's going to be very interesting. All right, imagine being able to build WebEx 100% in HTML and CSS and JavaScript. That's where it's going, right? And I think like by the end of next year, right, we'll be here again in a year, and we'll have a lot of that stuff. What do you mean? Of course. Huh? Well, yeah. Oh, that's what you meant. I have no idea. I'm not branding, so I don't know. Yeah. It is. But the thing is, it's fluid in terms of just growing and growing and addressing more and more use cases. The whole debacle with vendor prefixes, right, a few months back, right, is starting to stabilize. So it's moving in the right direction. It's consolidating. I mean, look at what you can do today that you couldn't do a year ago, right, on most browsers. It will be fluid until the end of time, right? So if you guys hope that one day the sea will calm down and it'll be a stable API that never moves again, I don't think you're in the right business. There'll always be something else. Yeah. So more devices, more APIs, more features. I mean, at some point, someone will declare HTML5, but I'm sure there is an HTML6 coming around. Yeah. I know people say that, but the thing is that the implementation is well ahead of the standardization. Right? I mean, the last couple of years, right, what you could do versus what you can do now, it's night and day. Performance is night and day. So HTML5, I mean, you can build a lot of really cool applications today with HTML5 on a majority of platforms. Right? You don't have to wait until 2022. And by the time we get to 2022, there'll be a whole other era of additional features, holographic projectors, and I don't know, you name it, right? 3D, immersive streams, multi-channel, blah, 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 coming in. Yeah, the browser will be a chip on your brain, right? So, yeah. So, I mean, but look, I mean, one thing I haven't talked about here that always amuses me a lot is all the augmented reality applications, right? Combination of geolocation with get user media, right? And projection in canvas to basically do overlays. I mean, that's the basic technology to do augmented reality. And when you look in there, it's not that hard. I mean, what's hard is the mapping and the landmarks and all that type of stuff, but to project it and get the camera oriented with the geolocation and the device motion, right? So you have the XYZ axis, and then doing an overlay on canvas, that's not hard. That's like 100 lines of code and you're done. Sure. But so the pieces to make it happen, it's happening. The data format on how you merge geodata, that is not. I mean, this is the gold of. I mean, look at what's happening with Apple right now in iOS 5, iOS 6, right, the iPhone 5, with maps. Maps are hard. Not showing the maps, but the actual geodata under the covers is massively hard. Right? It was very presumptuous to think that they could just turn it around and do it. This is like decades, and Google has very strong relationships with military outfits and satellite outfits and all that type of stuff, right? Yeah, I mean, it is, but it's more than that. Like, I mean, Sergey Brin and Elon Musk and the whole, like, space complex and space industry in Europe and the US, right? These are guys who know each other, and this is why they have access to that data, and this is something they've built the relationship for a decade. For Wi-Fi, what do you mean? Oh, a map of where the Wi-Fi hotspots are. Yeah, sure, of course. Sure. Yeah. Yeah, there's some privacy laws in there. But that's the thing, right? The thing is, it's getting much and much easier every day to build really rich front ends with web technology, right? But the back end remains very complex. Absolutely. But it's not just horsepower, it's hardcore, right? It's computer science. Yeah. And HTML5 makes it so, I mean, imagine building just the augmented reality with native technology on a Windows laptop 10 years ago. Can you imagine how many thousands of lines of code you'd have to do and how many months of work that means? You can pull it up now. Basically, the web, what makes it magical, is that it captures best practices. People are arguing, are fighting over the standards. Different people have different points of view, right? It's huge competition between all the players, but it's also a very collaborative environment. Once it's done, 3 lines of code captured. That's their current mistake. Whether it's a long-term reality, I don't know. But you assume that the Windows Phone will have a big impact in the enterprise, which we don't know. But I mean, DirectX, right, is a popular environment. But it's not just Xbox. Even on Windows, a lot of people are building 3D apps on Vista, on Windows 7, and so on, right, that are all DirectX based. A lot of tooling, lots of really good frameworks. I have no idea. I'm not a big gaming guy, so I thought the PS3 was really big too. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, but that's Microsoft's stated strategy. So the next version of Xbox is Windows 8, right? The phones, the tablets, right? So Windows 8 is the platform that's going to take over the Microsoft universe as a unification thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, IE10 is a really good browser, guys. Right? It's like night and day. Yeah. But that's cutting edge CSS, right? So grids, flexbox, all that type of stuff, exclusion, inclusion, regions, all that type of stuff has been driven a lot by Adobe, and that's starting to make an impact. What's really cool again, so this is why like we're talking audio, video in this session, but there's a lot of intersection with CSS. So you can apply that video tag, it's a DOM element. So you can put it in a 3D animation on a cube, right? CSS, so, sorry, if you can switch back to the other, the demo. So this is, I mean, this is not video, but this is a 2-order CSS-based animation, guys, right? It is not, yeah. So this is a 3D cube, right? And within the 3D cube, each one of those are independent DOM objects that are animated with CSS. So CSS allows you to do composable 3D and 2D animations. I could put a video in there and start turning it around exactly like those things. Now, there are limitations. So this is pretty smooth, right? Pretty nice. But look, I'm plugging it in. No, this is 100% CSS and pure DOM. So now, you see, I just plugged in my power support. Do you see how jerky it is? I'm removing the power. Do you see how smooth it is? So I have a power brick that's 60 watts, and I have this big ThinkPad, right? The real power brick is like 2.5 pounds. It's gigantic. I refuse to take that in my luggage. Yeah, but the problem is that, but it's not that. It's the driver level, right? So when I plug the power source, because it's a lower voltage than what the laptop really needs, video acceleration is one of the things that get drops first. So literally, I plug it in. Within a few milliseconds, the hardware acceleration is re-enabled by the chipset, and everything becomes smooth. Right? I plug it back in. Right? It goes, oh, I don't have enough power. Drops hardware acceleration and a bunch of other things, right? CPU throttles and so on, and the performance is visibly affected. So the smartphones on iOS, when the battery goes below 30%, it starts dropping the hardware acceleration. So when you look at a lot of get user media, a lot of that stuff that becomes very hardware accelerated dependent, right? Power management becomes a real concern. And you could have someone using the application and performance just works great, and suddenly, for no apparent reason, things start to slow down pretty significantly. It's visible. I mean, you've seen as an example here, right? And on our platform, we're still working the power management aspects, and it will probably not be as high as 30%, but at some point, we have to start throttling the CPU, we have to start throttling the GPU, and some of that stuff, right, will happen as well. So that's today still on mobile, right? The downside. So imagining our virtual, augmented reality application that basically gets live frames coming in from get user media, get projected on canvas. You're doing network access to get map data to overlay, and you composite everything into canvas. That's heavy stuff, right? I'm pretty sure there's actually a group, I forgot the name of it, that's doing this type of performance analysis, right? An application that has no DOM or whatever, but all they do is XHR and just get gigabytes and gigabytes of data in a stream, right? How much power does that actually consume, right? At the milliamp level, they'll say that 3 gigabytes at full 4G speed consumes, I don't know, 5 milliamps. I'm making that up, right? I don't know what the number is. But imagine just get user media for an hour. What does it consume? There's very little research and very little work in that area. Right? Devices get more popular, more powerful. Battery is still an issue, but in general, people are okay with the one-day thing. And then, but we kind of take it for granted.
It would have been nice if, like on my desktop, I have Norton 360.
Mm-hmm.
It will tell me which applications
Yeah, but you know how much Norton 360 takes in CPU cycles? Open up your thing.
that's like on the extreme case.
Yeah.
Is there a way for
So,
BlackBerry 10?
so from an IT management perspective, there are things like not power level. I mean, as I said, there's very little research into power consumption, right? Like, I would like to know if that feature, how power hungry it is. Could you build a green web app? That would be an interesting piece of like PhD. But for Norton 360, there are technologies like that, but they're too expensive. Yeah. So for BlackBerry, yeah, I mean for BlackBerry and for the IT stuff, the IT administrators can tell per app how much data it's consumed and basically do all that stuff, but there's no power meter per app.
But that would discipline the developers in making sure that the apps are green.
Well, I don't know what will.
Are you going to be real picky when you certify these applications?
But the thing is, how do you measure? How do you measure it per app?
Yeah, that's my point. But if you give the consumer some notification that this app is using too much of your battery power.
Well, so power, it's hard to tell. CPU, you can.
Well, CPU is equal to power usage.
No. How about networking?
Yeah.
Right? And GPU and.
Well, I mean, I'm just looking at CPU percent. But of course, if you use the GPS, all those things,
Yeah.
the GPS.
All those things. So, I mean, those guys, if you get back to me or you talk to Eli knows that group. There's a group, I forgot the name, they're building a power-based kind of test suite for mobile devices. But they're really like anal. They will take a device, they will define the dimension of a cardboard box so that it controls the light input on the device and make sure that the device doesn't dim if it has a light sensor, which could affect the power consumption, right? And they have special rig to make sure that the device doesn't go to sleep. So they literally build a black box, a card box that has, they say it has to be 1.5 feet by 1.5 feet and blah, blah, blah. The device has to be positioned exactly at that place in the box. And then you run the test and you measure the energy, right? Because they want to eliminate all types of like light sensors or other types of external things, right? Including GPS waves. So it's like, it is really insane. Just the experimental setting is crazy.
But the thing is, 90% of the users don't have any idea what's going on.
Of course, of course,
And they always blame it to the OEM.
of course,
The body power sucks.
of course.
But it's actually the application and then downloaded
Yeah.
that's consuming all that.
But first, there's got to be people who look at the research aspect of just being able to measure power consumption on particular features of apps. Like I use an API, I don't know, like especially today, right? In the olden days, you were doing a C call, you had an idea of what was going on, you could look at the compiler, you could say, oh, I'm executing 150 instructions, right? Today on the web, you're making those extremely high-level calls that involve thousands of codes and tens of layers. Absolutely. I mean, Eli has nightmares about websites mostly generated from like content management systems that do divs within spans, within TDs that are wrapped into iframes within divs, right? Like, it's nuts.
Gazillion redundant JavaScript.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is today one of the areas where we spend the most time. We're building things in the browser specifically to optimize those types of web pages because they're very prevalent.
Remember the BlackBerry browser years ago? It has for JavaScript.
You mean on BB5?
The typing limit, remember? Like the JavaScript when it's loading the JavaScript. Yeah, it cannot be when it passed that.
Okay.
Remember the first version of the
I just joined RIM with BlackBerry 6, so I don't.
stop
Okay, possible. Yeah, let's get back on topic. So media streaming out back to like a server? I'm not sure. Most people use WebSockets for those things. And one of the things that's interesting is part of WebGL was building up all the binary arrays. And people are starting to use those from the WebGL spec to also do kind of data manipulation and having blobs being sent out through WebSockets. So I'm not aware of ALS or any other like specialized transports. WebSocket is becoming kind of the de facto things for just general data and binary data now with the binary. Okay. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a JavaScript library out there that just handles it, but I don't think that there's anything special that we do on our end. Okay, well, I have no idea what time it is, but okay, we're a little bit early. Cool, thank you.